Do you encounter very many students now who can't accept your positive outlook on them? And if so, what do you do about that? Like, how do you push through that barrier?
It's a good question. I would say more so for those students that have a hard time believing the positivity. It's not my job to change anybody, but who I am is not predicated on your ability to agree with me or to believe what I'm saying. You know, if I choose to be positive, that's going to be tested based off of my ability to handle negativity. So if there's a student that has an issue with, you know, my positive approach, just be me. Give them their space, you know what I mean? But do my job. So if I say good morning and they don't like to hear good morning, okay, I said good morning because it's a good morning because I said it's a good morning. Until you find out that it's a good morning, that's up to you.
Welcome to the Elevated Hope Project, a podcast dedicated to celebrating stories of resilience, transformation, and second chances. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Elevated Education, an organization that serves at-risk students through innovative schools like East Point High School, Elevated Academy, and Accelerated Learning Center. At Elevated Education, we believe in the power of education to change lives and create hope where it's needed most. Today, we're honored to be joined by Mr. Uriah Grissom, who is one of our very valued staff members, and just for the audience's knowledge, Arizona royalty. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You've been with our organization pretty much since Chris and I got started. You've been in education longer than us, working with at-risk teens and starting.
You were a teen.
Yeah, pretty much. So I thought it'd be great for our audience to kind of hear your story, because I think it's incredibly interesting. I think you've come such a long way, and just how you're pouring back into these teens and, you know, kind of in your day job, but also you've got a lot going on otherwise that you're really involved in, and, you know, in the community and church and those kinds of things. So thanks for joining us, and we'll jump right in. So why don't you just briefly kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, all that kind of stuff.
First off, thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor and a pleasure to be here. My name is Uriah Grissom. I'm 31 years old. I've been working with this organization for about 13 years, going on 14 years now. I'm from Parker, Arizona. That's where I was reared and raised. I was born in Yuma, Arizona. I'm number 6 of 11 children. My parents had all 11 of us single birth.
No twins is what you're saying.
It's not a single birth.
Yeah.
You know, because we have unique heads. So definitely a credit to my mother, but we were homeschooled, all 11 of us. We were educated by our parents. My father is a pastor of the Lily of the Valley Church in Park, Arizona. And now he pastors another church in Yuma, Arizona. So he's very busy, and I do my best to do my part. I try to be a good son sometimes. But I've been working in education, like I said, for about 13 going on 14 years. After, of course, being homeschooled, moved here to Phoenix to finish my undergrad. My major was in biology and my minor was in chemistry. Really like science. And that's kind of like how I was able to be a part of this tremendous organization. I actually was finishing a class period, and I had a cousin at the time who was one of the students of this program. And he wasn't doing very well in school. And since I was there, living in Phoenix at the time, after school, I would go to the Croc Center and I would go and help tutor him, you know, with his homework. And that's when I met Nate Scott. And he seen me helping my cousin, and he came up to me and he was like, "We need a TA." And I was like, "No. Not interested. I'm a full-time student, you know, kind of like need to focus on that." And the ironic thing about it was I really didn't like school. I felt because the way my mother taught us was, oh my God, I felt like you never got an opportunity to play. It was literally 85% of the time you're doing some type of literature, working on something, writing some essay, reading some book. And so it was exhausting. And anything to get out of school quick was my MO. And so I kind of like took that to college. I just wanted to get out of class, do my assignments, get it done. You know, I wouldn't even take homework home. I would finish everything at school. And that way I can relax at home. But I was at the Croc Center at the time, and I'm helping Sid. And Nate comes up to me. He wants to offer me a job. And usually Howard would pay for school because growing up in a big family, I didn't want to be a burden to my parents. You know, there's 5 older than me and there's 5 younger than me. So I'm dead smack in the middle. Of course, my parents would help my oldest brother, put him through college, my oldest sister, put her through college, and my siblings had difficult majors. So school wasn't very cheap. You know, my oldest brother wanted to be a lawyer. My oldest sister wanted to be an educator. And my third oldest brother wanted to be a pilot. So by the time I'm literally witnessing my parents pay for my third oldest brother's schooling, pilot school is not cheap at all.
Yeah.
11 kids. And kids won't say it, but you can feel, you know, when there's a financial strain there. And I seen how hard my brother worked, you know, even assist in helping pay for school. He would work 2 jobs while being a full-time student. I mean, sometimes I'll go and visit him. He's working all night, come home early in the morning, get his books and go to class.
Wow.
So that was the type of like work ethic that I had witnessed my older siblings do. And so by the time it was my turn to go to college, I didn't want that financial burden on my parents. And so I would work actually before I went off to college. When I finished high school at 16, I went to junior college. That way I could knock out my general education studies, and that would reduce, of course, the cost of university by half. And then from there, apply for like scholarships and everything like that. So by the time I did go for my undergrad, it was already basically paid for. So I would work the summers to save up money to kind of like hold me over the semesters so that I can focus all my attention on school. And so that's when it gets me, I had a little bit of time after school to go help Sid with his homework. And so Nate, of course, he offers me a position and I'm like, no, full-time school, not gonna worry about it. But every day he'll come to me. He's like, don't come back here if you're not gonna fill out the applications.
Like you own the place.
Yeah, basically, you know how Nate is. And so one day I came and I'm helping my cousin Sid, and Nate comes up to me with his big old hands and they're heavy, and he hits me on my shoulder and he slaps his application down. And it was an interesting time in my life because at the time I was taking the bus to school every day. And I really didn't like dorm life. I'd witnessed it with my older siblings, and I'm like, yeah, I really have no interest in it. I moved to Phoenix, and I stayed with my grandmother. And so where she was located, Central Phoenix, and, you know, you have to go all the way out to the Polytechnic campus for school. So I'm up about 4 a.m. in the morning, catch a 5 a.m. bus, taking about 4 buses to get all the way out to Mesa. And then I'll literally stay there all day, do my classes. And then when I was done with my classes, try to catch the earliest bus to get back, you know, into town. There was a time where it was a situation where my grandmother had moved a gentleman in, and I had went home for the summer, and I came back, and this gentleman had moved my stuff outside. And so, and it was out there. My stuff had been out there the whole summer, so clothes were damaged.
Yeah.
I called my dad, kind of let him know. And just to give you a little idea of his personality, he's like, well, son, I think that's time for you to get your own place. No.
No sympathy, huh?
Yeah, no sympathy. I was like, oh, man, I'm boiling. And this is what you tell me? Get my old place? And no, of course, you better figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
So all the money I had saved literally for that semester, catch a bus, I'm looking around for apartments. And mind you, school starts on Monday. So I'm going around and I find an apartment, but now that's now a requirement. I'm going to have to come up with monthly rent every month on top of the expenses for school. And so when I went to go tutor Sid and they came with that application,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Let's go. Why not? And so, but I told him, I was like, hey, I'm a full-time student. Certain hours, these are my class periods, this is my time. I gave him my whole schedule. And they was like, that's okay. Come in from, you know. And this was the second semester. So I got a little bit smarter on how to set up my courses and my classes and everything. And so I would heavily concentrate my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then sometimes Fridays in the afternoon. So it kind of gave me a little bit of open space to, navigate employment. So I worked part-time for Student Choice at the time, and I was basically helping teacher assistant, tutoring, and all those types of things. And we had a lot of success. Your guys' father at the time, which is a great man, was very helpful, very understanding, as well as very motivating and inspiring, to the point where it was almost like he could see something in you that you didn't fully recognize in yourself. And even to this day, I was amazed by how he gave me room to grow, make mistakes, at the same time learn from, and had the patience enough to be patient. And from there, I got to grow substantially, got to learn a lot, got a lot of great mentorship. I actually met you guys through, run-ins, and then from there, I was entrusted with teaching classroom. And then from there, I was given more responsibility and learned how education worked when it came to DRP, learned the laws about it, as well as responsibilities, obligations, duties, from schools and what the state looks at. And so I got to learn that from a very early age. And at this time, I had to be probably about 18, 19. And getting to be exposed to that information, I was able to catch on, very fast, to the point where I caught on to the concept. And being homeschooled was a benefit because our parents kind of like conditioned our mindset or influenced the mindset to identify patterns. So in any situation that you're in, any circumstance, any workspace, look for the pattern. If you can identify the pattern, you'll learn whatever you're involved in very fast. And so that's kind of like how I use those methods to this day. I look for a pattern. And I was able to pick up the pattern at 18, 19 on how DRP works. After that, it becomes like second nature. Learned the concept, understood how recruiting is supposed to work, how to do it, how to create and develop healthy partnerships with the community around you, how to be a part of the community where the community recognizes you as a asset rather than liability or almost like a parasite. Systematic parasites, I like to think, are those systems that only consume or take, but never replace or give back. And so kind of like showing that community how we are, a healthy asset was very beneficial to that school at the time. Enrollment boosted like nobody's business, being able to be given the opportunity to interact with kids that didn't think very much of themselves. It's not that they lacked skill. It wasn't that they lacked intelligence. It wasn't that they lacked capability or abilities. It was just mindset, being told that you're something that you're not and believing it. And so it was kind of simple for me to create a relationship because I dealt with the students based off of what hadn't been given to them, rather than trying to understand them from where they're coming from. So if I'm interacting with a student, I'm not coming with no judgment eyes. I don't know you. You don't know me. All I see is potential. So I'll deal with you based off of the potential I see rather than what you've been told. And I notice that students most times will see that and kind of like, it's surprising at first because like you're talking to me like I'm somebody rather than, oh, I'm looking at your information, your transcripts. This is what they said your behavioral problems were. Or this is why you got dropped or withdrawn. I don't even look at that first. I learn the individual first before anything else. That way it keeps the interaction pure because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. Enrollment boost, we were able to start a high school basketball team. Compliments to your dad again. Always thinking outside the box. And of course, with the ambition and motivation, inspiration of Nate, his ability to get kids to believe something. I also observed that. Like that was very incredible. He can get you to believe the vision. And I'm always inspired by that because I'm like, man, that's almost like if you're going out to battle, you need somebody like that.
Yeah.
He's the ultimate galvanizer.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, he's the hype man.
Yeah, he will make you believe it as if that is the most important objective to the point where it's easy to be a part of that. And I got to experience that, and I like to adapt those same type of skills and positive attributes. And so I seen these 8 boys had all the talent in the world, but they lacked a sense of belief as well as, can I really do this? Or, is it possible? And
because none of these 8 really played organized competitive basketball before, right?
Only probably out of the 8, 2 of them.
Yeah.
That were, and then, I'll say 3, but we didn't get to benefit from the 3rd player because, as we started making some noise, and they wanted to come to us. There was no recruiting for the athletes. They literally would seek out our program. And I think one of the gentlemen was 3rd in the nation on ESPN on 100 best high school athletes. And so because of that, the games we won with him playing, they were forfeited. So we literally that season didn't lose any games. And out of those 16 games, man, they were almost all blowouts. And each and every one of those individuals on that team were offered scholarships to play basketball. And there was one gentleman, didn't play a lick of basketball at all. We just needed an extra player. But he just wanted to be a part. And I remember Nate in practice was working with his 3-point shot. He couldn't really do anything. He wasn't the best dribbler. He wasn't the best defender, but, teach you something. And it was literally, he scored that whole season 3 points. And it was his 3 points that allowed us to go to the championship.
Wow. Wow.
The game was on the line. We were down by 1. No. We were down by 2. And it was the semifinals. We were playing at South Mountain Community College. And so going down the court, Charles at the time, he's going down the court, he's taking the ball up. And at this time, the team knows who the threats are on our team. So they had kind of like isolated, double teamed. And there's Joel in the corner. No one's bothering him. He's just sitting there like the clock is going down. And Charles passes it to Joel. And I remember I'm sitting on the bench like, oh, man, we're done. I'm like, we are done. Still, that's not the person we throw the ball to when the clock is and the game's on the line. Joel goes, he throws the ball up. And it's always like slow motion. And he swished it. We went crazy. Nobody was on the bench. Like, threw him up in the air. And I mean, that's even a lot to unpack in itself. Sometimes to get to that next level in life, it will be the person you least expect. And I think that's symbolic even to the line of work that we do, working with alternative education, because it's almost like how I see it. In order to get the kid or the student that everyone wants, you take the student that no one wants. To me, it's important that that's understood, because the student that we usually see or come in contact with, it's not because they lack, it's because sometimes somebody just needs to see the value.
Yeah.
And I look at our organization as miners. Whenever you're looking for a diamond, you're mining a diamond. When you hit the diamond, it doesn't look like it's refined, polished, last view point of it. It's a black rock. And if you're not a true miner, or if you don't know what you're looking at, you can miss something very, very valuable. And what we essentially do is, once we strike that black rock, we begin to polish it. We begin to peel back the layers of it. We refine it, and around graduation day, you have this student that everybody desires. I've seen C students turn to B average students, B average students turn to A average students, and come to us with no idea of what they wanted to do, but exposing them to so many options that they have available to them, to the point where when they do leave us, they have an idea. Okay, I'm signed up for this college, or I'm going to this trade. And that to me is very rewarding. You can't put a dollar amount on that, because, money comes and goes, but a relationship lasts forever with the memory, with an experience. And so that's kind of like have been, in a summarized way, my experience.
Yeah. I want to circle back. You were talking about mindset and speaking life into these students that you come in contact with, clean slate, and even your example of Nate, getting people really rallied behind a vision. The words we use can build someone up and create versus tear down and destroy.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that and refine that? That's one thing that we all notice about you is you're just incredibly positive with every one of our students, and you're identifying their possibility, you're speaking that into them, and that motivates them to kind of rise up and step up into that. Yeah. Where did you experience that, and now you're kind of passing that on?
I did experience that. Like I said, grew up with 10 siblings and a big family. And so by the time I came around, my parents were heavily involved in ministry, whereas my older siblings, they had more of the one-on-one interactions with our parents. They got to see our parents at their youngest stage, more on a personal level. When I met my parents, my dad's a pastor and there's more kids. So when I'm developing, there's not as much one-on-one time with me. It's more so, here's the expectation. Expect you to do it. Get it done. If you don't, you can get in trouble. So it was more so of a disciplinary perspective where I got to, that I knew my parents, not so much on a personal, which then at the time I didn't recognize it, but I know now what it was, to the point where, my older siblings, they set such a high standard, such a high standard to the point where it's like, hey, you don't want to be the weak link. You don't want to be the one that breaks the mold. And so, majority of my early development, I kept like trying to keep up to the point where if something wasn't resonating or if there was some information I didn't know, rather than actually saying it just to try to keep up, I'll move past it. And when you have a lot of siblings like that, especially, God bless my mother, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we move on to the next. To the point where there was a test that we have to take in order to receive your high school equivalency. And I was very nervous about it. You have to take all the subjects, social studies, your math, you had to take your English, your writing, reading, all of that. And so time came, did well on all the other subjects, but when it came to math, it wasn't a passing score. And there was always, like, growing up, we had this, it was almost like a social joke, amongst our siblings. You don't want to be the first to fail that test or that state test. If you fail that state test, it's like, it's the end of the world. And my older siblings, they were passing it with flying colors. Like, I mean, breaking state records and stuff. So the time came, and that's all, I always heard that. I always heard that growing up, to the point where subconsciously I believed it, didn't recognize that I did. Time came, took the test, the results came back. My mother brought me in, I see the computer, I didn't pass it. My whole heart, like, I thought it was the end of the world. I'm like, I cannot believe this. I literally tried to study for years, like 2 years before taking that test, just to make sure that this didn't happen. It was almost like a nightmare. The very thing that I didn't want to happen, happened. So when I see the results, I literally begged my mother. I was like, please don't tell nobody. Like, don't tell nobody that this happened. I'll just take a retake. I'll pass it that time. We'll take it as if that was the first time. And she's like, okay. My dad had a ministry that he had to do in San Francisco. And so he went, and he had the 16-passenger van. Girl, no.
16
passenger. And he goes to go fill it up, gas, and it had to be like 12 a.m. in the morning because we're about to drive like 10 hours. So he's filling the gas up, and we're all in the living room waiting, And my mother's talking with us, and we're all talking, joking around. And then it got to a real serious conversation, to the point where they start talking about academics, because some of my older siblings, they were coming home from college and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. So my mother, she was talking, and she wasn't really paying attention to what she was saying, to the point where, oh yeah, and that's why I needed to give more time. That's why Uriah failed the test. And I looked at her like, I'm like, you betrayed me. You wasn't supposed to tell nobody. And so there was a pause in the living room, like, what? And they all looked at me. He did what? He failed the test oh my God, it was like just the worst feeling in the world. I'm like, I wanted to like bury myself. So it ruined my whole trip to the point where there was little smart comments and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Siblings they are brutal. This I knew I could be something in life if I could endure that. Siblings, they do not have any filter. You know, you on a trip, you driving, he's like, man, see, you can't do anything. If you're sitting too close to somebody, then it's like, you need to scoot over. This is why you failed the test.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. And so just like that, I mean, that's where I think I had like a mindset change, because I remember my dad, the day that happened, he knew that something was wrong because there was something. And I tell you, like the relationship I had, it wasn't more so on a personal, it was more so like disciplinary. You know, I see him as this, you know, just make sure I'm doing my job so I don't get in bad graces. He came into my room and I really did not want to be on the planet. That's an honest feeling. Didn't even know that's something minute, but it was really big to me, to the point where I thought I failed my family, failed myself, to the point where I'm like, oh man, you are the weak link. You know, you start believing the negative words. My dad got a chair. I was laying in my bed. He sat right next to the bed, and he told me, so everything's gonna be all right. Just that in itself made a huge difference, because I seen a different side of my dad that I never had seen before. I'm like, him taking that time to sit by my bed, actually being concerned with how I thought or what I was thinking or how I felt, meant the world to me, because that communicated to me that maybe this isn't as big as I made it. If he still likes me, if he still loves me, or, you know what I mean, if he can tell me that, that's okay. So to make a long story short, the time came, took the test again, and of course, passed it. Came to realize that the person that administered the test the first time had administered the test wrong and had got fired. So my scores for my math didn't even go in. They weren't even recorded. So here I'm thinking that I failed the test, when in fact my work wasn't turned in because of someone else's. And I was able to pass the test like no problem, but it made me pay attention to words. Because being on the receiving end of how, even if you think you're joking, even if it's comical, or even if it's just sarcasm, which I like to define as criticism hidden in humor, it has some adverse effect, to the point where you may not believe it directly, but subconsciously that side of you will rehearse those words in your mind, because our mind is trained to hold on to negativity. And so from that, I believe it gave me a passion when I do see a kid that does not believe, or has not been told, or hasn't been communicated in a positive way. Yeah, we got to break all that. You have to break all that. Now I know my experience then was for my purpose now, to the point where I've learned that, or found purpose in pain. And I've learned a lot from that, because I even tell students, if you have a problem seeking purpose, you have to find out what hurts you. Because usually your purpose is tied to your pain. There's a reason why this situation's uncomfortable. There's a reason why you feel that way. There's a reason why you want a difference, or you that need to make a difference. And if you learn to not live in denial, but accept what is conflicting within yourself, then you understand that, hey, maybe I need to work or be that person that finds out how to come up with a solution to the situation. So when it comes to your question about mindset, that's how that was.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Do you encounter very many students now who can't accept your positive outlook on them? And if so, what do you do about that? Like, how do you push through that barrier?
It's a good question. I would say more so for those students that have a hard time believing the positivity. It's not my job to change anybody, but who I am is not predicated on your ability to agree with me or to believe what I'm saying. You know, if I choose to be positive, that's going to be tested based off of my ability to handle negativity. So if there's a student that has an issue with, you know, my positive approach, just be me. Give them their space, you know what I mean? But do my job. So if I say good morning and they don't like to hear good morning. Okay, I said good morning because it's a good morning because I said it's a good morning. Until you find out that it's a good morning, that's up to you. But, you know, that's kind of like just setting the temperature, setting the tone. And with kids, it's kind of, at the end of the day, no matter what their experience is, whether it be positive or negative, they have an affinity to eventually circumvent themselves to what the temperature is of the environment. And so, and I know that's my responsibility. If I'm going to work, there's a job that's expected of me to do. And me doing my job is not if you like me or not. Me doing my job is because this is what's needed and necessary. And, you know, I make a lot of metaphors and stuff like that. But, you know, you go to the hospital and you're going to the trauma unit, you're hurting. You don't want that physician to put, if you broke your leg, put pressure on it. It hurts. But the doctor's not going to deal with you based off of how you feel. It's going to deal with you based off of their responsibility to make sure you get the necessary care that you need. And that's kind of like my approach.
Yeah. So you just keep at it.
Absolutely. Because eventually they don't find out that, oh, he's really that. So either we tolerate it or, you know what? Eventually I get that question. Why are you like that, Mr. G? And that's the question I'm waiting for. Because now you've opened up room for us to communicate. And that's what I was waiting for. It's almost like patient with fishing. You're ready for that bite.
So you do tons of thinking and you're critically putting together your purpose, your why, your strategy. Who are the people who have taught you how to do that in your life? Or where does that, are there some main influencers?
Yes, my parents, of course. My father would say all the time when it came to academics, he said true education is not knowing what to think, but knowing how to think. So he wanted to influence the thought process of critical thinking. You may not have the tool that is convenient for a situation, but you need to make a tool, come up with a solution, figure it out, because that's a God-given ability that all of us have. And you need to learn to use that and know how to do that. But I would say growing up in a big family helped with that as well. And even my positioning in the family, because I'm the youngest of the older half and I'm the oldest of the younger half. So dealing with the older half, you kind of have to learn how to critically think because you're not the biggest. You're not the strongest. So older siblings can bend their will on you. And so you have to learn how to navigate, learn personalities, you know what I mean? Develop relationships that will protect your interests, you know? And that's what I would do growing up. Like, and I would have to have an answer for every person that, just in case they went left, I would have an answer for them. So I had two older brothers, Jen and Isaiah, and they were like a clique. They were always together. They're like the bad boys. And so it's like, I always needed protection from them guys. And so I'll always develop a relationship with an older brother than them. So Aaron, who is the pilot now, I would develop a relationship with him, make sure I'm in his good graces. You know what I mean? Just in case if they come for me, have a relationship with somebody that has to look out for me. And then if Aaron turned on me, I needed to have a relationship with a brother that was older than him and bigger
Like your
than him.
childhood was a Hunger Game.
Yeah, basically, absolutely. To the point where like I had to have an answer for everybody, but knowing how to get along because you kind of like nature forced me to have to get along. I'm an introvert by nature. So it wasn't very hard for me to entertain myself. I'd much rather be by myself, even though I had a lot of siblings. You know, most times, even in my room, I reorganize my closet so I can have my little office space in the corner so that I can shut my door and just have my own space to myself. But that allowed me to develop certain behaviors and some things that I didn't like experiencing on my early development with my older siblings. I made sure to right the wrongs when I was an older sibling to my younger siblings.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You were strategizing and critically thinking since the day you were born just to get through it. And so, yeah, it's just who you are.
Oh, yeah. When they made you want to play football, he didn't want to play. You kind of had to because if he did it, and I had to be the quarterback. And so the bad boys, like I was telling you, I was always so happy to not be on their team. And for some reason, I was a target. So
The blitz was always on.
blitz was always on. And I'm like, I would be crying. And my older brother would be like, throw the ball faster. It's not enough time. It wasn't fun to me like it was fun to them.
Yeah.
Or if they needed an extra player for basketball, you know, it was like, okay, just got to go do my part because there's no getting by You know, I don't want to have to deal with them later. So I just do my part, make sure I guard my man, make sure he's not scoring, make sure if I get the ball, make sure every point counts, just doing my part. So I try to simplify my life. And the only way I can simplify it is by do your part. If you do your part, no one can ever come at you, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of like a defense mechanism.
I kind of feel like the whole basketball scenario still happens to this day, because one day I was visiting your location and the whole Grissom crew rolled in for some basketball. I heard it got rowdy.
Oh, yeah, it did. Dynamics changed. And that's the funny thing, because God has a sense of humor.
Now you're one of the bad boys?
Oh, yeah.
He's the bad boy.
Absolutely. And I'm taking full advantage of it. Because I remember, you know, you grow up, life literally forces you to have to make a decision. Either you're going to fold or you're going to rise to the occasion. And when I was starting to get a little older, 13, 14, I just got tired of my older brothers being able to bend their will. So I'm like, I got to do something about it. So that's when I got into working out. So from simple as just doing push-ups every day, I made sure I did my push-ups every day, at least 100 push-ups. If I couldn't do them all at once, I would break them up into 25 4 times. And then when I got strong enough, then 50 2 times. And then when it gets really simple, then 100. And then you start thinking like it's a mindset, to the point where I start tricking my brain. If you see a number like somebody's 100 push-ups, yes, 100 push-ups can be a lot based off of how you think it, if you count from 1 to 100. But if you divide it, just count to 10 times, then your mind begins to operate different with your body. So it becomes mind over matter. And in doing that, I began to kind of like expand my mind, start reading more, wanted to be able to articulate what my thoughts were, you know what I mean? So that I could communicate my feelings. Or if I'm speaking with my dad, because he was a stickler for words. Oh my goodness.
Because words matter.
Words matter. I mean, his discipline was you had to learn at least 2 words a day. And he always asked you about your words. You didn't.
When you weren't prepared.
When you weren't prepared. I used to think, like, how did you always know you're not prepared? I guess there's a look that you have when you're not prepared.
And there's just father instinct.
You'll be at the dinner table. And even if you ask for seconds, what's your words for today? Oh.
Yeah. How big was that table with 11 kids? I mean, it must have been a 20-foot table.
Oh, yeah. It was a big table. It was a big table. Then you start getting bigger. Yeah. Then you have more chairs, more space and everything. Yeah. So it was, I used to dread mom cooking. Because even though the cooking was good, she would use every pot. So if you were on kitchen duty, man, you're going to be putting in work. Yeah.
It's like cleaning up from a summer camp like every day.
Yeah, literally. and my parents were, oh my God, they're clean freaks. So if you leave something undone, they will be more than happy to disturb your sleep in the night. Turn on the lights, get up, everybody get up, get into the kitchen, and Pasta start pulling stuff out. Do it all over again. And you cry and tears come out your eyes. But it taught like, hey, if you don't want to have to deal with it, do it right the first time.
That's true.
But I think your analogy of a miner, refining that diamond, obviously was creating the pressure to make you into that diamond. Yeah. But then who's been the one that's been refining you and pulling those layers to continue to polish that diamond that you are today?
Every relationship that I've developed since then, you all, my parents still to this day, the students, my wife, you know, now I'm at a stage in my life where I'm paying attention to every relationship, whether good or bad. I remember when I was about to get married to my wife, and my father came to me and he talked to me. He said, hey, I just want you to know that the relationship you'll have with her, if you want to know what type of relationship you'll have with her, examine all the relationship with every woman that's in your life. And that'll give you a summarized idea of how you relate to her. I ain't never heard that before. I was like, that's kind of deep, because I have some aunts that don't want to. You know what I mean? There was some relationships that I really didn't too much because of, you know, just different paths, you know, ideals and stuff, to the point where it's like, wow, how I interact, whether positive or negative, is based off of me, not them. So if I want to have a healthy relationship with my wife, I need to make sure that I have a healthy relationship, even with the relationships I don't truly, or I'm not really fond of. And so kind of like developing relationships that kind of subconsciously hold you accountable to the point where, like, even with working with this great organization, there's a sense of freedom because, of course, you know, James, you say all the time, I want us to adopt the spirit of entrepreneurship, which gives you a freedom to create, but at the same time puts the demand and obligation for you to produce. So it's like, I give you that freedom to create, but there's an expectation that there's something there's supposed to be an outcome from it. And I like that because it's almost like focused pressure to the point where it's almost like a college feel. Hey, you don't have the professors. They're not going to be breathing up your neck to see if you get the work done. But guess what? When that grade comes in, they're not going to be apologetic. And I like that type of sense of accountability because at the end of the day, you can't blame nobody but yourself.
Yep.
So in developing relationships, I determine, like, okay, is this relationship that I have in my life going to make me better, or is it going to take away from me? And I make a lot of scriptural metaphors, but it was interesting in Genesis when God told Noah to get 7 clean animals and 7 unclean animals. I was like, okay, what makes an animal clean if it lives outside? It's automatically dirty. Come on. What makes it clean? But if you really pay attention to those animals, the clean animals have a way of living to the point where they adopt mannerisms and behaviors that rid themselves from parasites. And I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. So if a tick or a flea gets on a deer, the deer will do something, whether it's rub up against a tree or eat a certain type of leaf that literally repels these parasites from it. And I'm like, I look at relationships the same way. Either a relationship that I have adds to me and I add to them, or this relationship is just straight takeaway. And if it's a straight takeaway, it's a parasite. And it's my responsibility to remove that.
So let me ask you this. In my opinion, you have become an excellent leader of both, you know, the students that directly interact with you, with your team that you manage, but even, you know, across the organization as a whole, right? People are looking to you for leadership. And I think with that one quality, you could literally go do anything in the world you want to do, right? Because you're capable, and with your style of leadership, that in and of itself is of value to any organization. But day in and day out, you choose this work. Why is that?
Because I found purpose. I found my purpose. Understand it. The scripture says true and undefiled religion is this: to take care of the widow, the fatherless, plead for the widow and the fatherless. And a great percentage of the students that we have are fatherless children. And the reason why that's important is because when you lack a father, you lack foundation, you can't see future, you don't really understand the purpose of authority, and it affects your functionality. And so being able to work with these kids, I feel a internal as well as an external fulfillment, like I'm doing something that I'm supposed to do. Whatever God has for me, it's going to come to me regardless. I'm not going to have to connive or, you know, try to be witty with it, especially when you live in purpose. Something about nature, things operate on purpose as well as, you know, consistently. I have adopted the mindset that if I am natural in my approach, then my life will be conveniently natural.
Very wise.
See, I told you about that leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You're leading this room right now.
No.
Yes, sir.
I'm around some good leaders. I'll tell you that much. And I knew God had, I paid attention to those things. God will have me around people when he knows I need to be developed for something. And each and every one of you, I've learned a great deal. I may not say it, but I've learned a great deal. I've learned patience, tremendous patience based off of you. I've been around where even if something wasn't quite where I need to be in the organization, your ability to muster up this vision of this is what the plan is going to be and not panic, it can almost give you a sense of a spoiled. You can spoil your employees, because if I never see you panic, how can I know if something's really a situation? It's dire. But your ability to stay level-headed and like, we're going to work through this. Even being around where there were the beginning stages and I knew some adjustments need to be made, or it could be very detrimental to the organization as a whole. and being a part of that and seeing how you led the ship through it, I paid attention to that like nobody's business. Seeing even Chris, seeing two brothers work together and seeing how, man, that's a strong unit. I joke around. I'm like, you guys are like two lions. Usually the most successful prides are those that are governed by, coalitions. And I kind of like look at you two like that. Like in today's world, a coalition of brothers, two lions that are very strong, very wise, and capable, and very wise in their approach. You won't tell everybody what you know. You won't tell nobody which direction you're coming from. But when you show up, you're here. And I love that.
Well, thank you.
And even Sarah's ability to communicate. Man, when you came and just having a conversation with you, it was almost like wellspring of water being put on a dry plant, because it revitalized the idea of, wow, okay, someone does see you. Someone does understand. Someone does know how to empathize, sympathize at the appropriate times, but at the same time stand firm enough in her approach to know that, hey, I'm not doing this for you to kind of like stroke your ego, but saying, no, I do see the value in you and I know what your potential is. And I do have this expectation at the same time. And these past few years did a number on me in a tremendous positive way. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Could we make that go viral?
So let's transition a little bit more towards I'll call it a passion project.
Okay.
Probably more a developing business, something that you've become a known and respected entity in the dog breeding world. Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, I always had a love for animals growing up. Always wanted a dog growing up. Parents would never let me have one.
That would have been a 12th child.
Could you imagine? The dog would never get.
I know. We're the middle kids. You couldn't have a dog. Yeah. I really wanted a dog because we ended up having one dog. I can't say, but I know we did have one dog. It was a Rottweiler. Her name was Midnight. But I was too young. I had to be probably like 3 or 4 when they had the pup. And we're always traveling for ministry. So when you're homeschooled, you're all constantly in school 24/7. I mean, year round. And so it made us always available to travel with my parents for ministry. Midnight got sullen when we came back from a trip. So I was supposed to watch the dog. She ended up getting sullen, so my parents never got a dog from me. So I always wanted a dog. I begged my parents, like, I'd take care of the dog. I guess they didn't believe me. It wasn't very compelling. My proposal needed work. Actually, the first year I moved up here for my 3rd year for college, I was helping a cousin of mine because he was a breeder. So when I get off school to keep myself occupied, I don't mind selling some quick stuff. And a moving target is always hard to hit, so I always wanted to stay busy. So when I get out of school, I'll go and I'll help him. And he seen my dedication to helping him to the point where he wanted to bless me with a dog, which was because I didn't have no money to afford to purchase one on my own. So I was very thankful for it. He allowed me to pick my pup from the litter. I was so excited, and I didn't really understand it. You're not supposed to take the pup too early from the mom. My excited self took the pup at 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to take my pup now. Bottle feed it, doesn't matter. And so I had the pup. I didn't name it yet, and I would take it everywhere. Bottle feed the pup, take care of it, do whatever. But when you take a pup that early, but not receiving the medicine, can need to bring them up. Pup has to be at least 4 to 6 weeks before they can get their first vaccination shot, as well as deworming. And so the pup is heavily dependent on. I took it, so I'm just thinking, give it ghost milk.
I was about to ask, maybe I don't want to ask, where were you getting dog milk?
Yeah. So I was getting goat milk, and I was literally warm up the bottle, let the dog sleep with me. And go on to travel. If I'm going to travel ministry, the dog was with me. It's a point where when I got about 3 weeks, poor little thing, man, it had a bloated belly.
No.
Losing weight. And I'm like, what's wrong? Like, I'm feeding it, all the time. Why does it look like it's losing weight? Now I'm feeding it. Didn't know it was a worm. So the dog was full of worms. And when dog is full of worms, you get bloated belly, as well as they lose weight to the point where it's like skeleton. So that's so bad. It's probably start doing some research. Like, in order to get the vaccinations and dewormer, it has to be 4 weeks. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait a week. And I'm gonna get everything it needs. Literally driving home to Phoenix so I could be ready for school in the morning. And I had the pup in the back seat. I make it to my destination. I don't hear no plane, no anything. So I go to the back seat, and the pup is lifeless.
Oh.
To the point where that's when I knew I really liked the pup, because a little tear jerked here and there. And I'm like, for some reason, I just start praying like, hey, God, please, if you let this dog live, I'll take care of the dog. I'll make sure I do right by the dog. I promise you, I'm making all these promises. Done with the prayer, the dog's in. So I laid it back down to go get like a box and some wastebasket liners so I could wrap the dog up and, kind of like bury it. Go back to the car, open the door. There's a dog wiggling its tail and literally like excited. And I got chill bumps. I'm like, you were just dead.
Yeah.
Like I was here, you were just dead. Now you're wiggling this tail. So from there, I grabbed the dog. I'm literally like just ecstatic that I named that dog that day Megatron. I named the dog Megatron. Megatron, man, he grew. And I mean, he grew to a point where he got so big. Like his dad had to be probably about 65 pounds of tops, or about 16 inches at the withers. So not very tall, not very big. A Megatron was on the size of like a Mastiff. And I did not know where this size came from. So, knowing me, I'm really inspired.
Probably the goat's milk.
Probably. I get him the vaccinations he needs. I'm getting him dewormed. I'm taking all care of the dog. And he's daily get bigger, he's getting stronger. And because I'm heavily into, fitness, working out, so I had him on night type of routine. Hey, you can't eat today unless you pull these bricks. So every morning he had to pull his bricks on the other side of the yard to get to his food. And when those bricks, cinder blocks was getting too light for him, I'll add cinder blocks, now add chains. I know it sounds horrible, sorry. And that's what he was doing, to the point where he was catching attention. Like,
I remember seeing pictures of him. I mean, he was a freight train.
Yeah, he was that guy. And so one summer, I take him home, visit my parents, and I spent a few weeks out for the summer back home. I had Megatron with me, and I didn't walk him for that day. I'm like, you know what? Let me go grab my brother's Ford F-150. I parked it at the end of the street, and I hooked Megatron up to the Ford F-150. And of course, I put it in neutral. So went all the way down the street. I had him trained to the point where he knew sit, stay, command, everything. Went to the other stop sign. I call Megatron. Megatron comes. But he starts pulling that truck. People start coming out of their houses, pulling out their phones. Like, I'm literally seeing a pit bull pull a Ford F-150 all the way to the other side of the street. And that video went viral.
Yeah.
And when that video went viral, I was starting to get attention from, celebrities that wanted a pup off of Megatron. So when I did Megatron's first breeding, based on love, his chef, WNBA players, NFL players were grabbing his siblings. Even Brandon Ayuk, he plays for the San Francisco 49ers. He has one of Megatron's sons to this day. The attraction for, and not saying the love for it, because I always had the passion, but that's when I started taking it even more serious. And so from there, started doing more research and everything, and started becoming a little bit more refined. And I started, putting them in shows and everything like that. Yeah. That's kind of like how it sparked up to the point to this day. Now, this had to be the same amount of time that I've been working for the organization as how I've been involved with the passion for dogs. And within those years, 13 to 14 years, every dog that I've produced that has been entered into a show has been a chapter. So God is kind of like blessed.
So if people are interested in checking out what you do, what's your Instagram handle for them to go check out?
My Instagram is Grissom Kennels, or at Grissom Kennels. And then my email is grissomkennels@gmail.com.
Sweet. Yeah. And right now you're kind of developing the whole American Bully breed, which, there's a lot of science to, improving the genetics and longevity and all those things.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Like right now, it's a fairly new breed. It's about 25 years old. And usually when you have a breed that young, it's not really respected from like the major registries like AKC And which is why this breed is not even recognized in the Eukanuba shows. And so a lot of disciplined breeders right now are trying to work really diligently to make sure this dog is a healthy breed, as well as a consistent Mookie breed, to the point where eventually in the next 15, maybe 20, 25 years, it's recognized in most shows. It's a companion breed, meaning it has an intimidating look, but they're not the best protection dogs at all. If someone is going to break into your house, they're going to give them a tour. Yeah, just want to play. Yeah, they just want to play, want to be loved. And so some of the best dogs ever. Very highly intelligent, easy to potty train. They just want to be with you everywhere you go. You kind of like just a straight companion. And really popped up during the pandemic because a lot of people were isolated. And then being isolated, you had more of a need for companionship. So the past 5 years became more famous.
Yeah, that's fun and super interesting to just kind of hear your journey of like developing that breed and kind of bringing you into the spotlight. And yeah, very cool.
Oh yeah, because it's very technical.
I think there's an important lesson in there too, that if it's something you're passionate about, stick with it.
Yeah,
you'll figure it out. You'll make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're just about out of time. Let me ask you this. If someone listening to this has an influential position, some teenager's life where they want to try to help them keep moving forward, what advice would you give them?
It's a great question. I would simply advise, be to them what God is to you. Whether we make mistakes, we fall short, don't believe in ourselves. Eventually, if I can call God, I communicate with God, there's a sense of warmth, redirection, purpose, restoration, forgiveness. And if you can relate with a teenager in that same way, then your outcomes will be like God's outcomes.
Just such an honor that you're part of the organization. And just so you know, a lot of people are looking up to you, using you as a model. Keep it up.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy day to come talk to us. We just so much appreciate you and respect you. And it's been an absolute joy to see you grow in this profession, but as a leader, knowing you from when you were single to now how you're growing as a husband, it's just been beautiful to watch. And we're honored to have you here and part of the company.